Hello and welcome back to the Say With podcast. Today I am interviewing Violeta Puente. Violeta is a nutritionist. She's also an intuitive eating counselor and integrative life coach. She helps women over 40 improve their relationship to food, body, and drinking by guiding women to lean into curiosity and self-compassion while challenging ingrained beliefs and thought patterns that keep women feeling bad about ourselves. Now, Violeta says her mission is to help women feel at peace with food and themselves so they can focus on the meaningful and pleasurable things in life and enjoy their bread and butter without guilt. Welcome to the podcast, Violeta. How are you today?
Thanks so much, Holly. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
Good.
Aside from a little cold, but it's all good.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to kick off our interview by asking you what prompted you to transition from maybe traditional nutritionist or diet approaches to a more intuitive eating approach. How did you make that shift?
Yeah, so I used to work as a health educator in chronic disease management, like in clinics and doctors' offices. So I worked with a lot of people that had diabetes or prediabetes and high cholesterol. And in this time, I developed like an interest in blood sugar management. And once I finished that job and moved on, I became a holistic nutritionist. And then I decided to continue the blood sugar management, but through this holistic lens and on my own terms. Like this is when I started my online business stuff. And so I signed up for my first business course and I'm like, yeah, I want to do blood sugar management. They're like, okay, that's great, but you need to sell a result, right? What is going to be your result? And I said, okay, I'm going to do gain energy through blood sugar management because I always had a little resistance with weight loss. It wasn't my thing. I felt like I wasn't good at it. Every time I had the patients in clinic that wanted to lose weight, I would, say, eat this, don't eat this. And then they didn't often lose weight. So I thought, okay, I'm just terrible at this. I have no idea how to help people lose weight. So I went with the energy, let's balance our blood sugars for energy, so you can feel good, feel energetic, like who doesn't want energy? And so the more I talk to women, I've always just worked with women, except for in the clinic. But the more I talk to them, they're like, yeah, I want more energy, but I also want to lose weight. And it was always the thing. I want to lose weight. So I started thinking about it. I was like, well, it's not what I want, but it's what they want. So maybe I should just do the weight loss. It's what they want. I gotta, honor what they want. So I started to do the weight loss thing. And I was not liking it. I didn't do it for long. I don't think more than 2 months, honestly. And it's funny because when I was kind of working on these questions, it prompted me to create an Instagram post. I think it was my latest post from a couple of days ago about I said the thing, fit in your jeans again, and I think when I said that, my body just went into all kinds of whatever.
Resistance, definitely.
Resistance.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I was like, no, I can't do this. And then I remember one day thinking clearly, oh my God, there's gotta be a different way to do this. I can't hear more women just talking so negatively about themselves, about their bodies. And about themselves, really, what's wrong with me? I'm, whatever, I'm doing something wrong, etc. So, and then, I looked into intuitive eating. I had heard about it, and I remember Googling it one day and seeing if it was for me, if it was going to be relevant to my work. And I was like, yes, I'm in. So I signed up, I think that day or maybe the next day. And I never really looked back. And that's how I got into the intuitive eating work. Yeah.
It's so funny because there's so many aspects of your story that I can completely resonate with. I met with a business coach who specifically coached health coaches, right?
Yeah.
And had a very similar conversation where I'm like, I'm not selling weight loss. And she kept saying, well, yeah, you are. Your ultimate goal is to help these people lose weight, right? And I was like, well, no, not really. That's not what I'm here for. And we just could not come together. She got so frustrated with me because I didn't want to buy into that whole weight loss is the thing I'm selling.
Yeah, I know.
And then the other thing that's so interesting too is when you don't feel aligned with something, it definitely shows up in your body. I mean, when you're doing something that feels like an ick, your whole body kind of retracts.
Yeah. Yeah.
being able to kind of stumble onto intuitive eating and have it feel so aligned right from the beginning, I think
Yeah.
that's a really good sign that it's definitely for you. I think you
Yeah.
probably did your weight loss coaching. You said what, 2 months? That's probably longer than most people are able to stick to a diet. So I think you did
Oh my
great.
God. Yeah. And I also really felt that intuitive eating really aligned with my values a lot more than holistic nutrition did.
Hmm.
When I did my master's in nutrition as well, and my focus there was on food insecurity. And
Hmm.
um, I was really loved the work of food insecurity, which ties more into the social determinants of health and all that.
Hmm.
So then holistic nutrition was like, oh, I don't know how I'm supposed to apply this to, my passion for food insecurity and all that. I mean, it's not that I couldn't, but I just feel like with intuitive eating, it just ended up just aligning more with my values and with the
Hmm.
things I believe in.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I definitely felt more at home with intuitive eating.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really drew me to it as well is the concept that there are no good or bad foods, right? I mean, for
Yeah,
me, that was critical because when I was doing medical weight management, there were bad foods everywhere. I mean, corn was bad, pasta was bad, bread was bad. It's like all
yeah,
these things that you're not supposed to be eating. And I
yeah,
think for so many different cultures, that became a huge problem. If
hmm,
rice is the staple of your diet and now you're told that
yeah,
it's a bad food, or, corn or tortillas or, pasta, it
yeah,
really can make it difficult to stay on a quote unquote diet plan long term.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
I know in
Yeah,
a previous conversation, you had
yeah,
mentioned the need to unlearn a lot about health, especially
yeah,
for the Hispanic community as a Hispanic woman.
yeah.
Can you share maybe some of the key misconceptions that you had to let go of and how that process was for you personally and maybe even professionally?
Yeah. So one of the big things that I ended up unlearning um, was, again, tying it back to the social determinants of health, was this focus on diet and exercise being kind of like the be all and end of all of health. There's so much focus on these two factors as being the means to controlling health.
Hmm.
Um, you know, Eat well and exercise, and like that's like 99% of your overall health, right? That's what most of us believe. And I think I had learned about the social determinants of health in university, but I didn't really apply it. I didn't really tie it into my own work. And so when it came up in intuitive eating, through this intuitive eating certification, I guess, I was like, oh my God, yeah, that makes sense. And so part of the unlearning was, yeah, like, diet and exercise are only, I think it's 16% combined
Ah,
of our overall health. Um, and I think the controllable factors in general are maybe about 40%. So not even half of your overall health. So definitely that. Um, what else? Just gonna quickly look at my notes. Sorry, give me 1 second. I'm just
no, that's
gonna
fine. The social
all over
determinants
the
of
place.
health, a lot of people
Yeah,
talk about that. But even though we are aware of its existence, so much emphasis
yeah,
is still put just on diet and exercise. You're so right
yeah,
about that.
yeah, exactly. And I really do try and share that with people, as much as possible with my
Hmm.
clients, and then with my um, Hispanic clients as
Hmm.
well, where diet culture is so deeply ingrained, as it is here too.
Hmm.
Um, but I do really like to share this information with them as well, like when they are just so stuck on trying to eat healthy and trying to avoid fattening foods, which is a
Yeah.
very common term used in Latin America. We
Hmm.
don't hear it so much here anymore, so much. I mean, I
Right.
don't so much in my kind of surroundings, but um, yeah. So yeah, I remember I had a client who um, she's like, I need to avoid fattening foods. I need to. She was Hispanic. I need to eat healthy, and she was feeling bad about herself. And then I said, you know what, like, health is so much more than the food you eat, and then and
Hmm.
your movement. And I said it's only like about 20%. And she's like, oh really? Like, that's so interesting. And a few days later, she ended up emailing me like, can you share some of the research with me? Like, I don't understand this concept. And
Yeah.
um, yeah, so I sent her some research and explained it a little bit more. And she was really grateful. She was totally unaware of that, as most people are, but she was very grateful for the information. Yeah.
Yeah. In your own experience, what are some maybe personal eating habits or behaviors that changed for you?
Um, Definitely less of a focus on like balancing all my meals and like,
Hmm.
did I eat my 5 vegetables today? And just like the details of eating. Like I don't really care anymore. It's not like
Hmm.
that I don't care about my health and food. Of course I do, and I love food and I love good food and I love eating. I'm just not like, I just don't care that much. I don't know what else to say. Like, and the other thing is I eat more convenience foods as well. Like
Hmm.
once a week, my husband and I might have fish sticks. We had them last night with salad and maybe some rice, you know. And
Hmm.
in the past, I never would have had fish sticks. Like I was never
Right.
one to be super clean eater obsessive. Like I was
Hmm.
never to that extreme, but still like, no, fish sticks, it's a little much, you know, a little too processed. And now it's like, yeah, let's eat fish sticks, you
Well,
know, let's,
I'm
yeah.
remembering, you're a runner, aren't you? Or didn't you used to run?
I
Or
used to run more. Yeah,
yeah,
I run once in a while. Yeah.
did you find that when you started practicing more of an intuitive eating approach, that it impacted your ability to run or the way that you would nourish yourself before or after a run?
Like after intuitive eating
Once
or,
you started kind of shifting from, into more of a
yeah,
holistic or intuitive eating
yeah.
sort of behavior for yourself, did
Mhm.
you find that any of that impacted the way that you might approach your exercise?
Like exercise in general.
Hmm.
Yeah, I definitely, it's interesting because when I first started the intuitive eating journey, I think like my own journey, I think we have a tendency to black and white mentality, you know?
Hmm.
And I thought like, okay, I go to the gym maybe twice a week, 3 times a week. I run. That must mean I'm obsessed with exercise. So I almost
Mm.
like was gaslighting myself a little bit. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm obsessed. So I stopped going to the gym for a while. I stopped doing exercise. Or I would just do very gentle exercise because we talk about gentle movement, right, and
Sure.
intuitive eating, which is great. But I've always really enjoyed running and cardio and like group fitness classes.
Hmm.
And then it took me like a few months, maybe half a year, to realize that I actually really love this. I love exercise. I love movement.
Hmm.
Um, so, so yeah. So I guess short answer is I stopped exercising.
Right.
Black and white mentality, and then I got back into it, and I go, and I also recently did a post about exercise. I love the gym.
Hmm.
I love group fitness classes, but I go once a week, maybe
Yeah.
twice on a good
Yeah.
week. On a good week, twice a week, and that's fine. It's not because I don't love it; it's because I just have other things to do. It's not
Yeah.
a priority. So just yeah,
It's fascinating because I think exercise is such a challenge for so many people because of that black and white thinking. We're either all in, fully committed, or we're kind of all out. I hate to do it. And
yeah,
even just listening to you talk about the conversation in your head about,
yeah.
am I obsessed, or, you know, is there something wrong with me? Maybe I shouldn't do any, and then only doing very quote unquote gentle movements. We forget that exercise is a form of self care, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the diet burning calories or, changing our body shape.
Mhm.
It's about more than that. And I think when we shift from that diet mentality of exercise as calorie burn or, punishment for
Mhm.
eating into I love the way my body feels when I run, or I love the way
Yeah.
my body feels when I do a group class.
Yeah.
Those are the things that we forget about. And it's such
Yeah.
an empowering but also freeing, liberating feeling to be able to
Yeah.
move your body for you and not for a means to an end.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And also, I was just remembering how I used to, I when I used to run more. If I went on a 5K run, it was like a lazy day. So I definitely had more judgment on myself as a lazy. Like I can't even remember the last time I ran 5K anymore. But
Right.
now I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna just run around the block. Maybe a 10-minute run, and
Hmm.
I'll do those more now. I haven't run now in a couple of months now. I'm not a cold weather runner, but yeah, now I'm more like, hey, like I don't, I don't have a lot of time right now, but I want to do a little movement, a little cardio, so I'm just gonna run around the block. or,
Yeah.
a few blocks, around 10-minute, 12-minute run. And I'm like good
Yeah.
with those, right? So before it was like more all or nothing. Like if I don't have time for a half hour 5K run, then I'm not going to run today.
Yeah. So, as an intuitive eating coach, how do you guide your clients to transition from that sort of diet focused mindset to intuitive eating, or that the principles of intuitive eating?
Yeah. So what I'll do with my clients is I first have them understand where their beliefs come from. So
Hmm.
the belief, where the beliefs stem from. So it's usually society and family and culture.
Hmm.
So I have them kind of understand that and just have that awareness and normalize it. Right? They didn't just
Hmm.
invent this information.
Right.
It it's learned, right?
Yeah.
And usually it's like it's just what we know. Like there's no other alternatives, right? So
Hmm.
I have them just understand where these beliefs come from, and then I'll also yeah. So if they say something like I need to lose weight, which is something many people will say on the first session,
Yeah.
um, then we'll try and unpack that. Okay, why do you
Hmm.
think you need to lose weight? Like what and all that. Um, so all the reasons why they think they need to lose weight. And then I have them also observe their thoughts.
Hmm.
I tell them that thoughts aren't facts, and this is usually a surprise to most people. It was for me as well when I learned this in our mentorship program. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you mean like this thought I've had about myself my whole life isn't true? Like, no, that's impossible. So we're so married to our thoughts. So even just having the awareness that your thoughts aren't facts, they're just
Hmm.
thoughts is already
Mind
uh,
blowing.
yeah, exactly. It's mind blowing. So I have them observe their thoughts, and then I explain the self coaching model, which our thoughts create our feelings, which create our actions, and then create the results in our lives. And so I teach them the self coaching model,
Hmm.
um, and then we create new thoughts, and often I really try and work on creating neutral thoughts.
Hmm.
Neutrality, I think, is so important in this work, because women, or people in general, um, we're so used to talking so negatively about ourselves and think
Mm.
negatively about ourselves and our bodies and whatever else.
Yeah. All that self judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So even just shifting from that to neutral,
Hmm.
I think is really important, especially as it relates to body thoughts, thoughts about body. As we learn in our mentorship program, the goal isn't body positivity,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
feeling a little bit more neutral about our bodies, um, um, and eventually, maybe respecting our bodies. But I definitely like to focus on body neutrality, or just neutral thoughts in general
Right.
about things in general. So that's kind of my process. I might do a little intuitive eating teaching as well, depending on how many sessions I have with the person.
Hmm.
Give them a little homework, like rating their hunger and fullness.
Right.
So the intuitive eating concepts. If it's a one-off session, we'll just go with the flow.
Yeah.
Go with the flow.
Sometimes those one-off sessions can be really powerful because so much of what you've just said is a lot for people to take in and really
Yeah,
embrace, right? That whole idea that maybe dieting isn't the be all end all of health, right? That maybe weight loss is not the ultimate goal that we all want to shoot for. It's all of those other feelings that we
yeah,
think weight loss is going to accomplish for us.
yeah.
Are there other aspects of health that you now focus on with your clients in addition to the intuitive eating?
Um,
Because you do some work with intuitive
yeah,
drinking, right?
yeah, yeah. I do work with intuitive drinking as well.
Mhm.
Um, other aspects of health that I work. Yeah. So I like to, and I can tell you more about intuitive drinking in a minute.
Yes, please.
But yeah, I do like to talk about a big one, like within the controllable factors, is stress.
Mm,
Stress can go either way, controllable or not controllable, but
sure.
assuming that it is, a controllable factor in this
Mm,
case, I do like to focus on stress, especially as it relates to stress being generated by negative thoughts about ourselves, dieting, food obsession, all this. can create stress. And that is, I think most of us know that stress can be detrimental to health. It's not always detrimental to health. A little stress is good, um, so I really like to emphasize that, these negative thoughts you have, the way, your thinking is, it's going to create stress, and it's, not going to be the best for you. Right. So
Sure.
I do like to focus on stress as one of the health factors. And then also as it ties to sleep, because sleep is also very important, also within the controllable not stress factors, controllable factors.
Right.
Sleep is also an important one. And if we're always stressed, that can definitely impact our ability to sleep well, to get a good night's rest. So
Yeah.
those are some of the things. Yeah.
And, managing stress is a big popular topic. I mean, you could probably Google manage stress and get a bazillion hits on
Yeah.
Google. I think one of the things that you hit on is that all of those things are so interrelated. When we have too much stress in our lives that's not positive or manageable, that can impact our
Yeah.
sleep. Both of those things can impact our energy levels, our mood, and then our decision-making abilities. We might rely more on, coffee, or more on food, or things like that to kind of help get us through the day. And all of that can disrupt our sort of self-regulating systems that we try to have in place.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I used to work in a health food store during my holistic nutrition days. And people would come in for stress supplements all the time. Like, what's good for stress? And I kind of knew the list of stress supplements.
Sure.
I can probably still remember them. But in the back of my head, I'm like thinking like I don't know if supplements are, the answer to your stress,
Right.
your stress problems. Like, I don't know. So I think I just, back to the holistic nutrition, my holistic nutrition career, a lot of times just didn't buy into a lot of the things like the supplements. And I mean, I love some supplements still, like I'll take some supplements, but when you're just relying so much on a supplement to better your health or to, solve your stress, it's like, so when we learned about the self-coaching model, thoughts, feelings, it's like, oh, this makes sense. Like, this is, it seems like a way better way to manage our stress, right? By working on our thoughts.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I don't know about you, but I've had so many clients that would so much rather spend $40 on a green powder to drink in a smoothie than to spend, 10 minutes trying to write down their thoughts and really examine what they're feeling and what's causing it, and then try to resolve that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I guess the powder's more of a quick fix, even though it can cost you more financially. I think it also costs us more mentally in the long run, because once you go through the self-coaching process and you learn to identify kind of how your thoughts are impacting your physiology, and then how that drives your behavior, you mentioned that earlier, that is really powerful. So when people can kind of get that, that gives them a lot more control. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's go back to the concept of intuitive drinking, because I'm really intrigued by that. How do you approach, first of all, what is intuitive drinking, and how do you approach this with clients? And if you're willing, maybe even share a little bit about how being an intuitive drinker has manifested in your own personal life.
Yeah. So intuitive drinking is a concept that is, I didn't invent it, but it's not official the way intuitive eating is, right? It's not backed by research. Because I've done the intuitive eating work, and then I was interested in kind of healing my own relationship to drinking. Like, I feel like a lot of the times when people talked about their relationship to food and to especially to food, it's kind of, I feel like that's how I felt about drinking. A lot of the words people use and the feelings and the guilt and the shame. I was like, that's how I am with drinking, actually. So I was like, what if I took some of the intuitive eating concepts and applied them to intuitive drinking? So I did that. And then I created like a small program last year, or earlier this year, rather, using the intuitive eating concepps and concepts and the framework, and especially the framework of curiosity and self-compassion. And like the way I might coach someone with intuitive drinking, so similar to intuitive eating coaching, I'll have them unshame their drinking. So really get them to understand why they drink, like their perceived benefits. What are the perceived benefits of drinking? What is it doing? Is it relaxing you? Right? Like, why is it important to feel relaxed at the end of the day and kind of numb your mind or soothe your mind? I don't like the word numbing too much.
Sure.
Yeah, but so what is it doing? What are the benefits of drinking? Like the perceived benefits. And then I tell I let them know that drinking is a habit and a learned behavior. Like we learn to drink, we learn to cope with drinking, or whatever it is we do with drinking at a young age. Like for me, it was like I started drinking in my early 20s after high school, and it really gave me a sense of like community belonging. I started going out on the weekends. I would always kind of run into the same people, and it was like I just felt, and it was fun, right? Of course, I mean, drinking is like, that's one of the things that's fun, but it really allowed me to connect with people on a different level than just, and I never really liked high school. So it was like, oh, I just kind of like blossomed, I guess. So life felt good. And it was, and so, I mean, that's how I learned, that was my learning experience with drinking, I guess. And so I let them know this, it's a habit. So if you drink, even though you said you weren't going to this week, it's not that there's anything wrong with you. It's just, it's an ingrained habit. It's like, it's really hard to just not do it. Right.
Sure.
It's, I mean, you've been doing this for so long, so you have to take that into consideration when you're trying to heal your relationship to drinking.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something that you do regularly, I can imagine just like trying to change any habit, it would cause a lot of anxiety for you to not do that. And I love what you just said about unshaming the behavior, because I think there's such a stigma associated with that. Telling people have more compassion and learn that you don't have to be ashamed of this. It is something that you can work on. It reminds me, somebody said, we were talking about emotional eating with someone, and they said, if you have an emotional eating problem, or if you eat emotionally, you probably don't have an emotional eating problem, you have a self-care problem. And I'm wondering if that might be the same about some of our drinking behaviors. It's not that we have a drinking problem, but a self-care problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would totally agree with something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think when we drink and we just kind of do it every day and we don't really stop to observe why we're drinking, what it's doing. I think when we just go through the day to day, right? Like most of us don't stop to kind of analyze everything all the time. Like that's not why you drink, to analyze and make life more complicated, right? It's like, just, relax your mind. So, exactly. So yeah, that makes sense. And then I also like to bring mindfulness into the drinking work. Just have people, I do some mindfulness work anyway, but just have them like slow down their drinking, maybe savor it a little bit more, savor the wine or whatever it is, get more out of a small buzz. If you want to have a glass of wine while you're cooking, okay, like maybe you don't need 3 while you're cooking, like really slowing it down. And it's not just about mindfulness, but it's also an important piece, just being a little bit more aware of how fast you're drinking and if you're just kind of like chugging back your glass of wine versus like savoring it and just being a little bit, taking your time more with the drink, and really like getting more out of a little buzz, right? Like without having to rely on like 5 glasses of wine or whatever it is, for a buzz. But it's a learning, it's a process. It's a process.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can see the parallels between what you've just said and coaching someone through, a challenge they may have with, Oreos. You don't have to have the whole sleeve of Oreos. Maybe you just have a couple, but that first one gives you all the pleasure, just like with the drink. The first one gives you the pleasure, and you're chasing that with the second or the third, right?
Yeah,
so you're just
exactly.
Kind of trying to continue that, and it's not always as effective. But when you learn that, then it gives you more of an ability to decide if you want to continue or not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
That's fascinating.
Yeah,
I think that's so interesting. I can't wait to learn more about that and see how that unfolds in more of your work.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what advice would you give to somebody who is deeply entrenched in diet culture and is really struggling to find a more balanced approach to their health?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. We can definitely take this in several ways. I think, again, going back to the social determinants of health, without, calling them that necessarily, because people are like, oh, that sounds very whatever.
Sciencey.
Yeah, science or, or academic or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
But it's just like health is broad.
Yeah.
Health is broad. Health isn't just about diet and exercise. I know I've said this like 1,000 times, but it's not. I mean,
Right.
do you have friends? Do you have family? Do you, have access to healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
education, or whatever, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially the social connection piece is so important as well. So just really getting them to just step away from this um, narrow focus to a broader one, really, and
Mm-hmm.
really be able to see, have the ability to see that health is just so much more than, every gram of protein you eat or,
Sure.
green vegetable or whatever
Right.
it is, right? Yeah, and then you can, and also emphasizing that, give me 1 second. Yeah, and also letting them know that, you know, they don't have to participate in diet culture or in this belief system if they don't want to, and that might
Mm-hmm.
just give them a little bit more um, autonomy, right? A little bit more
Right.
like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I don't have to participate. Usually that takes a little work,
Sure.
um, but yeah, that's kind of what where I go with that. Yeah.
We've been so inundated with the concepts of diet culture and everything that tells us that we have to do to be beautiful or accepted or worthy, that a lot of times we don't even realize it exists. We don't realize that we're swimming, in this kind of muck until somebody points it out to you, and then it can be a little shocking. And I think one of the things that you mentioned that is so important is helping people understand that it's not the shift in your body size that gives you the confidence or the success or the worthiness. It's the way you think about all of
Yeah.
those things. It's the beliefs
Yeah.
you have about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So
Exactly. That's
this has been really interesting,
yeah.
and I would love to keep talking. However, I know everybody has lives. So you have a program that I read about called Diet Free Happy Me. Can you
Yeah.
just tell us a little bit about the program, maybe who it's for and what it's all about?
Yeah. So the Diet Free Happy Me program, um, I'm launching it in January, and it's a program for women, or people who identify as women, as female, and it's for women who want to generally tend to value health, love to eat, love food, and just want to feel just want to heal their relationship to food, want to heal
Hmm.
the relationship to body. Um, Maybe they find they're very obsessed with food, or with dieting. They feel like they have to control food, so they just want to be at peace. Um, they want to live life at peace and just move on with their lives. So it's a one-on-one coaching program, and it's 12 weeks long. And yeah, like I said, it starts in January. And
Hmm.
yeah, what else? What did I miss?
I think that's a lot. I'm going to include links to everything Violeta. So, everything you would need
Oh,
to know
amazing.
on how to reach Violeta. So, if you're listening to this podcast and you're intrigued about any of the concepts that we've been discussing, please reach out. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook. I'm going to give website links. I will put links to all of the little free things that she has too, so you can learn a little bit more and maybe start a conversation with her about your own journey with food and body. So, as
Thanks,
we
Holly.
kind of wrap up this conversation, it's clear that your journey to intuitive eating and your approach as a certified intuitive eating coach really offers a lot of wisdom and guidance for people. Um, and your story is really a testament to the power of listening to our bodies and then redefining our relationship with food. It's clear that
Mm-hmm.
you've been able to do this for yourself, and that you are clearly qualified to help other people do this for themselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the insights that we've shared today remind us that health isn't just about what we eat, but about how we eat, how we live, and how we perceive and interact with not just our food and bodies, but with our families and our communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any final
Yeah.
thoughts you'd like to share?
Uh, what do I want to say? Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It was really fun
My
to talk to
pleasure.
you. Yeah, and I think just anyone out there, if you're curious about the um, intuitive eating journey, or you're not sure if it's right for you, or it feels a little bit scary or overwhelming, just be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with yourself. One thing at a time, one step at a time. Just trust yourself. Don't believe your thoughts.
Absolutely. Challenge those
Challenge your
beliefs.
thoughts and just be gentle. Maybe intuitive eating isn't for you. Maybe it is, but yeah, just be gentle.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Violeta, for sharing your journey and your knowledge
so
with
much,
us, your experience in navigating this complex world of diet culture and transforming it into a more intuitive and holistic approach to health that's truly inspiring. So I'm going to share just quickly before we wrap up some of the key takeaways from today's session. And Violeta, what is the website, just if you would say it for the podcast listeners, where they can find you?
My website is violetanutrition.com.
Excellent.
That's one T, Violeta with one T.
Got it.
Yeah.
Terrific. So really what we've covered today is the power of unlearning. Your journey has really highlighted the importance of unlearning societal and cultural norms around diet and health and showcasing the need for a more personalized and intuitive approach to eating. You've shared some of your own stories about, your behaviors, emphasizing the significance of really recognizing and changing any of the disordered eating patterns that are often masked as health promoting practices. And your counseling really demonstrates how intuitive eating can lead to a healthier and more balanced relationship with food without the shame or the guilt or any of the restrictive behaviors that usually go on that. Also, your approach not only transforms individual lives, but it also encourages a broader cultural shift towards more sustainable and body neutral approaches that are health inclusive practices as well. So thank you so much, Violeta. I really enjoyed our conversation today. And if anybody listening wants to learn more about Violeta, go to the show notes. You'll find all the links to all the places where you can find her. Thanks for joining us, and bye for now.